How crazy is that shit with Max? I was listening to a podcast on HBO's like transition to Max, and then I had no idea that they had all these other escapades.
In-betweens, yeah. I mean, this is very classic consultants making their money, right? Like 2018 or whatever, that some brand expert consultancy firm comes in and says, pay us $50 million, and what we'll do is we'll tell you what you need to maximize this brand, and what we're going to do is we're going to call it HBO Max, and then it's going to be really clear and powerful, and then after that they decide, oh no, actually pay us $50 million, and what you need to do is call it just Max, because that's cool by itself. And then they get the full triple dip, and they come back and they say, hey, pay us $50 million. You know what you should really do is you should put the HBO back in. And in the meantime,
paid $150 million for the original name.
The original name. Yeah.
But the strange thing about the HBO case, though, is that they have such a great reputation for the way that they treat their writers and their projects and the creatives. And they have the best content. Like, they have the best shows, they have the best docos.
Yeah, they're prestige, right?
I feel like they should have some awareness.
Well, that's why everyone thought it was baffling that they got rid of the HBO when they just called it Max, right?
Yeah.
Like, you took away the thing that was the brand proposition,
Yeah.
Yeah, very odd.
Yeah.
The other, I mean, not to get too deep into the weeds of like TV back channel shit, but they for a while tried to distinguish what was HBO content, as in things that aired on cable, and what was Max content, which was things specifically made for the streamer. And they tried to keep this arbitrary distinction. And then part of the most recent change has been to decide that everything is just everything, and it's all just HBO content, and there's no such thing as a Max original anymore. It's just, we're one network with one pot of money, and we're making shows across different kind of genres.
People don't think about that.
No.
Things that way. They're just like, it's there on the app.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
It's just a tile. It's just a tile with a poster and a celebrity's face on it.
Yeah, it is the one streaming service I have kept. I deleted everything else.
Which one did you keep?
Max.
Oh, I didn't realize you
Max.
could actually get Max in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's like in the last month or two, but...
Oh, pretty recent then.
Yeah. I pretty much just got it just so I can stream Bill Maher.
Oh, God. Not the rehearsal, not any of the back catalogue of, HBO originals.
I torrent that shit.
Okay, yeah, fair. I pay for it specifically to watch Bill Maher, but they'll happily watch HBO's stuff illegally.
Makes sense.
It doesn't. Also, if it only came out 2 months ago, then you claiming, the one streaming service I keep around is HBO Max, which is to say it's renewed once and you haven't cancelled it yet. That's impressive.
I actually do think I might still be on a free trial.
The first time that bill comes through, things are changing around here.
Hey, so did we get any people doing the quiz last week? Takers?
Just define people and define doing and define quiz.
Jordan Peterson over here.
I am not a Christian, and I've never claimed to be.
I got one message from David Stewart yesterday saying, screenshotted the podcast on his app, time to do the quiz, and then 5 minutes later sent me another message saying, sorry, the cricket's on. I didn't ask for any of this.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Look, I think numerically, if we were to look at the form and look at the responses, I think we could say they're in the low zeros. But if we were to think holistically about the impact that it's had on our listenership, then I think that's hard to describe. It's in a way priceless.
Not one single person. What about your nerd friends in New Zealand?
They've said they might get around to it. So I think probably actually the conclusion to take is it's too early to make conclusions.
Yeah.
And if we give it another few months, I'm pretty sure the situation will change.
You know what I think you should do? Mm-hmm. Replace, what was it? Episode 254?
5. Yep.
Replace that one with an earlier episode, then ask your friends. Oh, did you do the quiz? Oh, yeah.
And then what? just be like, gotcha.
Gotcha, you son of a bitch.
You lied to me. You lied to my face.
Well, thanks everyone for supporting us and listening to the show and engaging.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to think is that actually the content was so engaging just having you do the quiz that they didn't want to pause. They didn't want to take the time to go step away and stop listening to the podcast. And that actually what we generated ourselves from doing it was already top tier content, top tier listening.
Love it when you
So in a way, it's a compliment.
Yeah, the only time you ever give me a compliment is when you're trying to get out of a bind. You know, you just stumble into complimenting me.
Yeah, you know.
I'll take it.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, Michael. Welcome to Deep Thought, everybody. This is a podcast in which we talk about things that happen to us. And that's about it. Sitting through the internet with me, my friend Michael. Hello. Not original. And I'm Nick. Hello. Nick, hi. How are you?
Good. So why do you look so white as a ghost? Or
so this literally...
Whiter... Wait, let me get this out.
Okay. Yeah.
Whiter than usual.
Which is already ghostly. So this is worse, yes.
Thank you.
So this just happened like an hour ago. So it's very fresh.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. So this is a moral question for you, Michael. I'm looking for objectivity, and I want to know what you do in these kind of situations. So Casey and I were just driving into town with Goose in the back to walk her, grab some lunch. We're going to go around the park, go around town, and it's a Sunday afternoon. It's a lovely day over here. People are out and about. So I thought, okay, we'll park in a side street by the park rather than try and get into the park area. We'll grab a seat there and then we can wander in. So we turn this corner into this side street and there is a park available. No time limit, free park, perfect, just in front of someone's house. And it's what I'd describe as a single car park. There's no one. I'm not having to reverse parallel to get into this. It's just, driveway, open curb, driveway. You can just drive straight into that and park, parallel to the street. Mm-hmm. So we pull into this park. And then I would say maybe like 15 meters down the road, 15 or 20 meters down the road, this is a one-way street. This car up in front of us reverses back up and pulls alongside us. It pulls along my driver's side window and winds down his window, and I wind down mine, and he says, I was about to park there. I was like, oh, well, sorry, you were down there. So, I mean, it wasn't like you were sitting here indicating. You weren't right in front of the park to pull back in. In fact, as I just demonstrated, you can just drive straight in to this park. There's no parallel park. Yep. There's no cars blocking. You can just drive into this park. So you're already down the street, not indicating. Yep. And he says, I was about to
like, no, I shotgunned it in my car. I shotgunned it.
And I was like, sorry. I mean, it's, I just drove in. You were down the street. You'd already moved on. Yeah. And he goes, so you're not going to move for me? And KC in the passenger seat says, mate, it's a public street. Just go find somewhere else, And he's like...
What's this guy look like? Age?
I would say 40s, bald, white. He's driving like an SUV, like a slightly larger car.
Okay.
Probably a sort of Spency. Casey's guess was like a contractor or,
Bit of a
head of a... I mean, he wasn't in a ute, but just someone who thought he was hot shit. So he says, well, I was about to park there. And in my head, I'm like, this isn't worth it. But I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit of a stretch. So I put up the window. And if I was by myself at that moment, I would have just driven off because I I don't care enough. There's enough parks around that I would have just gone somewhere else. But KC says, no, don't move. Just park. We'll just get out. We'll fine. So I put it in the park. KC gets out. This guy drives off a little bit forward, presumably thinking that I'm about to move the car so he can take the park. But I just get out. We get Goose out of the back, and he reverses back up again. He's sitting in the middle of this street, and he goes, so you're not moving? And we're like, nah, mate. I mean, you weren't indicating. You'd moved on already. What? Just
Not how
get on with your life.
Works.
Yeah. So getting the dog out of the car and putting him on the lead, and then he starts to get aggro, and he starts to be like, "Mate, who the fuck do you think you are? You know what are you faggots doing?" Like, and drops the F-bomb. And Casey's like, "Mate, just this public street. Just go find another park. Like, you weren't indicating. You weren't sitting here. You weren't in front of the thing. Just go on." Then he parks his car, still engine running, in the middle of the street, gets out and gets right up in our face. Wow. And steps to us, and he's getting super angry. He's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And Casey's like, oh, yeah, you think you're going to take me? He's
fuck yeah,
fairly solid
fuck yeah
guy. This has been trading judo for the past few years, and I think in his head he was like, I'm finally getting my chance to use my judo. But the guy's getting real aggro. Goose is jumping about. I'm like, Casey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Are you inside the car or outside?
I'm out.
The car?
I'm out. I'm holding the dog. And I'm like, okay, let's just, it doesn't matter. Let's just leave it. Let's just go. As in, let's just walk off. We've parked the car, he's not getting in the spot. Let's just walk away.
Yeah.
And the guy is getting real aggro. It's like, oh, you think you could take me? You not got any idea who I am? You think you can take me? And Casey's like, yeah, I think I could take you. And like, it's getting aggressive. They haven't touched each other, but they're right up in each other's face.
How are like, so what's the proximity?
Oh, like right up.
Wow.
Like 5-10 centimeters from each other.
Giving him a kiss.
KC then grabs his phone out and takes a photo of his number plate and takes a shot of him. And that causes the guy to be like, oh, you're running piss scared, mate. You weak little piss. You think, look at you, you're shaking. And aggro. And I'm just like, Casey, let's just go. Let's just walk away. And the guy's, throwing out insults again. And so eventually I just grab the dog and Casey walks away and we just walk off around the corner. And just leave him and the car behind. And it, like, genuinely still kind of shook about it. Like, I'm not someone who likes conflict, and I don't particularly enjoy those situations. But KC was very much like, we were 100% in the right. This guy was a dickhead. I knew that I was not going to, take a swing at him. I was, if he had hit me or something like that, I would have hit back, but I was never going to instigate anything. And I, took a calculated risk and knew that I could protect myself and protect you. I am still coming down from it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious from
adrenaline.
I'm curious from your outsider perspective, what you would have done in the situation, and whether you think, I mean, KC's perspective as well is like, you can't just let people bully you out of shit, and you got to stand 100%. Up for yourself. But 100%. Do you do well in that kind of conflict? And do you think that walking away in that situation rather than, as in once you're out of the car, do you think walking away versus stepping to the guy and retorting and things is valid? Give me your objective takes here.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry it got homophobic. Is that a part of the adrenaline, or is that just part of the course with these knuckleheads?
It probably is like a multiplying factor. It doesn't sting. It's just a word, and it's a word that came out very quickly in a way that makes me think it disqualifies him from, this was a misunderstanding to me. I don't think he aggravated because he thought we were gay, but the fact that he was so quick to launch off with this shit means, oh, you're just a dickhead. Like, this is not a good person who's had a sincere misunderstanding, you know?
Not having seen the situation, I'm just going to take a stab and say it wasn't about the car park for this guy, just as a hunch. Look, I fantasize about having these types of.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's so many ways to approach it. I don't know, like I think it would just be really fun. I can't remember one that's happened recently. Oh, actually, kind of. But like just to laugh, like I think just to laugh at the other person, I feel like would be so neutralizing, or at least like if someone's laughing at you, I feel like that would be worse than someone taking a swing
Like
at
psychic damage.
Yeah, just like you're hilarious, you're adorable. You could have like just made out in front of him. That would have also been really quite
It
interesting.
didn't feel like the moment.
Well,
Also,
yeah.
Casey's lips were a lot closer to him than he was to me.
Yeah, well, Casey could have made out with him. I don't know. No, I mean, I do get excited by this. I would still have the adrenaline, I think. And it depends who it is. There was, I was picking up Lauren's parents from the airport last week. And as I was coming into our street, there was a guy having an argument with a woman, and he had parked his car like right where the curb is. So, and there's like an island in there. So I couldn't get through. And I think he ran into this woman ahead of him and just got out, and they were having an argument about who was to blame. And meanwhile, he's just blocking all this traffic. And I wound down my window. I was like, mate, can you move your car? And he was like, just go around. And I was like, I literally cannot go around. And Lauren's dad, what a legend, just started going, you're the fucking God. I've never seen him raise his voice, lose it. And he just cut sick. And I ended up mounting the curb. But yeah, I don't know. I like those kind of situations, I guess, as long as there's not a physical threat. And I guess you got a dog, and you don't like confrontation. I can see in your face you're quite shaken. I feel bad. For you.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I have that nature. In my head, you know, I mean, from step one, like, I'm non-confrontational enough that I don't care enough about that park that, like, as I said, in a vacuum, if it was just me there, I would have just moved my car. Like, yeah. Even if I knew I was right, but because I was like, what does it matter? Once we were parked there, you know, I think my choice would have been to walk away rather than like respond to him. But, you know, KC's very much like, I knew that, you know, he was a weak little dude. Like, I didn't feel in physical threat.
Yeah.
And I think he had a degree of protectiveness towards the community, and the fact that, you know, people say, you know, call you a faggot, you know, I think he riles up about that.
This is very sexy behavior. I'm just going to say this from KC.
Really?
Three hot points, 3 deep foot hot points to KC this week.
Fuck, 3.
Yeah, he's now up to 5.
That's the most that you've given anyone.
He's now up to 5.
Oh, God.
But you'll get there. No, that's sexy stuff. Protector. I got a little, actually, I won't say that.
But do you think that there is something to be said for if we had just walked away and not antagonized, that's also like a valid...
Sounds like you played it perfectly. Casey stood his ground. It wasn't out of bravado that he engaged with this guy. It wasn't out of, like, you know, alphaness. You know, maybe there was a hint of it, but like clearly Casey was the alpha in this situation anyway. So I think it was well intentioned, and you played it perfectly. I would have hated if this story ended with you getting back in the car and driving off. You would have lost 3 hot points yourself, Nick.
Oh, God. And that takes me down to -3.
-3 now. Yeah. But we've still got 40 minutes of the show left, so anything could happen.
Okay. So this is different.
No, I'm glad you stood your ground. This is good. This is a win for gay men everywhere.
And when a straight man says it, you know it's true.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting us in Pride Month.
Ally. I could be
Oh,
gay
well.
now after hearing that from Casey. Ooh, ooh mama.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
he's going to be really. It's going to be annoying that you've supported him on that, but that's fine. That's all right.
I'll
I mean,
text him. I'll text him.
yeah. Okay.
Well,
Still, yeah. And the vibes. Way to kill a walk, I'll tell you that much. Nothing like a little bit of verbal assault to really make a lovely afternoon in the park not that much fun anymore.
nothing like a good old F-bomb on a Sunday afternoon in the park.
Yes.
So,
Anyway. If anyone else has feedback about how they would have handled that situation or thoughts about it, please let me know. Canvassing opinions here.
and then do last week's quiz.
Deepthought@gmail.com. Yeah, and do the quiz. Actually, I'll put it
that
at the bottom of the quiz. It'll be questions.
Every
question
link
5.
goes directs to the quiz. Every hyperlink.
Yeah.
So I got a few nugs. I got a few newsy things going on in the world. I got a fun fact that you wouldn't believe.
I got a topic. Actually, I've got one more KC thing. Do you want to hear a KC thing? It's brief.
Yeah, I'll take my pants off again.
Yeah, put your briefs on. So this was the other thing that happened. It's been an eventful weekend. Friday night, I'm sitting at my desk finishing up. It's like 5:30. My phone rings, KC, and I'm like, oh, KC ringing. It's very rare. It's either the weather's bad, can you pick me up from work, or do you want a smoothie? Very rarely is there a phone call. And I
feel like you can just have a system. It's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
it's just
3 rings
three
means
for
do you want a
smoothie.
smoothie? Yeah. And he picks me up. He's like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, not much, just at my desk. Why? He says, I've just been hit by a car. Would you mind picking me up? And I was
Very
like,
polite.
yeah. Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, the ambulance is coming. I was like, what's happened?
love
He's like,
this.
I was riding down the street and I crossed a side street and a car turned left into the side street as I was riding straight along it and hit.
He was on his bike.
He was on his bike cycling, and the car hit his rear tire, knocked him off. He hit the ground. Car screeched to a halt, and police, ambulance. He was on the ground for a bit. I was like,
What?
yeah, I'll come pick you up. You don't have to, ask what I'm doing.
Just give me 10 minutes. Fuck.
Yeah. I just got to finish this sentence. So I popped it. It was like 500 meters from our house. Like it was just the last 2 minutes of commute. So I popped down the road, get there very quickly. And the ambos are there and the police are there and he's walking. And the fact that he made the call and was sounding all right diffused a lot of the worry. But the bike was, in fact, I'll send you a picture. The bike was like underneath the car. The ambos were checking him out because he'd fallen on his leg. Thankfully, he didn't hit his head. But I think the knee had sort of taken a bunch of the impact. And so he was being checked out by the ambos, and obviously there's a bit of adrenaline with that and everything. But in the end, it was all mobile. He is fine. He was walking on it, cycling back the next day. It was all okay. But what a what a wild weekend we have had.
What happens with the insurance?
Well, as it happens, the bike seems like it sort of survived. Like, great testament to this.
Just get a new bike.
Yeah, but
bike.
It doesn't actually. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that the guy will get a bunch of fines and shit.
Yeah.
Like the police were there doing a report, so you have to imagine that's like demerit points and.
Oh yeah.
Presumably a financial fine or something if you hit someone with a car. I can't imagine they just like let you go away.
No, it's reckless driving or something, isn't it?
Yeah, but
well, I love hearing. I'm gonna have to give Casey another 2 hot points.
God damn it!
This stoic behavior is just really doing something. Whoa!
I just sent the photo in
Yeah,
chat.
fuck. That is a sick photo.
Yeah, that's in the chapter title, I guess, now for the podcast. But it is his bike
And the license plate number.
Maybe I'll blur out the license plate. But he was like, genuinely happy that he damaged their car. Like the fact that it's scratched and bent up the front of it. He was like, yeah, fuck yeah. If you're going to hit
Yeah,
me,
it's a sick photo.
You should have to pay something.
I'm gonna make this my Facebook profile picture. I'm loving hearing this stoicism from Casey. You know, it's really putting it into perspective. You know, his uncomfortableness with my ambush from behind the first time I met him at dinner.
Yeah,
really.
You came
really
in for
making a lot of
before
sense.
You'd actually met. You just got ambushed,
and he didn't like it, and I see why now. I see why it's taken 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, 5 years. But yeah, anyway, that's my eventful weekend.
Awesome. I'm glad he's okay.
Yes, I am too.
Was it raining as well? It looks like it was raining.
Yeah, it was. It was dark. It was cold, and it was raining.
Cinematic.
Not a good time to sort of slack off when checking your side mirrors to turn into a side street, because hitting cyclists, not good.
Not good. All right, what's your topic?
Okay, Michael. Well, just to keep this rolling, how about a little bit of science news?
Please.
Play the jingle.
It's that time. Time for science news.
This is an article in The Walrus, a Canadian magazine by the sound of it, entitled "The Pill That Promises to Cure Grief." In 2022, prolonged grief disorder was added to a revision of the 5th Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, a guidebook referenced by clinicians around the world. Too much grief had become an official diagnosis. The idea of prolonged grief came about in the 1990s and has sparked controversy among experts since. For some, diagnosing and subsequently medicating grief risks turning normal human processes into symptoms. For others, the value of a diagnosis brings legitimacy to the chaos of emotion. The debate sparked another question: if grief can be diagnosed, can it be cured? So prolonged grief, according to the DSM-5, is an intense yearning for the deceased that interferes with everyday life and that lasts at least a year for adults and 6 months for adolescents and children, unless that grieving period is normative in one's culture. While researchers of the disorder claim that it applies to as little as 3.3% of grieving people, those who do exhibit prolonged grief are at risk of severe outcomes, including suicidal thoughts and heart attacks. So that's the context here. Now we have the introduction of what is considered to be the first grief pill. Once the disorder was added to the DSM-5, proposed treatments began emerging, and one of them is this pill naltrexone. The drug came into the market in 1984 to treat alcohol and opioid addictions by cutting off the pleasure one feels from the substance. Recent research theorizes that a grieving person thinking of the deceased triggers the reward center of the brain, like a drug, and that naltrexone could help diminish that obsessive focus. It's often taken for between 12 weeks and a year. The premise is that those with prolonged grief disorder can become addicted to the person they lost. So I might pause here, Michael, and just get some thoughts here. This is a longish article. I'll put it in the chapter title here. Obviously, there's lots of different angles around it, but what's your first thoughts here, Michael? Do you think that grief can become a disease? And if it is, would you want to try and cure it with a pill?
Yeah, this is really interesting. My first instinct listening to that was that I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, I have some aversion to it. And look, grief can be really detrimental, obviously, and can lead to like suicide and like just can debilitate a person. But I think part of me feels that, like, I don't know, there's like coming out the other side of grief, there's like so much human learning, stuff that happens through that process. But that might be I mean, this is not, I'm thinking in real time here, but
Of course.
I mean, we have things like, we take pills for depression and we take pills for a bunch of other things. So it makes sense that, in certain situations, if grief is debilitating a person, then this is a good idea. But the idea of like just avoiding any suffering in life, I think is probably a bit of a scary thought to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think we know in other mental health contexts that chemical imbalances can result in negative life experiences and outcomes for people, whether that is depression or ADHD or bipolar or whatever it is.
PTSD, yeah.
PTSD, absolutely. And we know that introducing substances into the brain, whether that is, clinical drugs or even things like mushrooms or marijuana or, other chemicals have potentially beneficial effects for people who are dealing with those things. So I think on like a far out zoomed perspective, I can see why people have at least explored this idea, right? It seems like a rational thing to explore. And I think it would be a straw man to say that these scientists who are looking at this are attempting to erase grief from culture.
Yeah.
I think they are very explicitly talking about people with this prolonged grief thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting question, right? Part of the caveats there, even in the definition, is for, grief for a year, unless that's part of the norm of the culture, which is a really weird asterisk to put on it.
What would be like a comparison?
Well, I mean, I guess what my point is that they're saying that whether it is unusually long is culturally subjective. And that suggests at that point that you're not in a science area, you're in an anthropology area or whatever, and if the grieving process for some culture takes 1 year and that's valid, then what is to say that it's wrong in our culture if people are grieving for a year, other than it's abnormal for us? It's just a slightly that's a bit of a flag for me, a red flag for me.
I've just ChatGPT'd what cultures grieve more, and it's come up with, so apparently Middle Eastern cultures like Arab or Iranians, public displays of grief such as wailing, chest beating, lamentation, culturally accepted. Mourning can last for 40 days or more with ongoing rituals. Latin American cultures, South European, African. So, yeah.
I mean, I think like Italians famously are like wailers at a funeral. They'll get down and they'll sob and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Have you ever felt grief?
I feel pretty lucky because I have to really say no. Like I still have my parents. I have two of my mum's parents, my grandparents on that side, both died when I was like 10, pretty young, not at a level to have known them long enough or to understand it at the way that you grieve someone really.
Yeah.
And then my granddad on my dad's side died 5 years ago now. It's coming up on 6 years ago. Must be 6 years ago. And we were not that close on that side with that grandparents, so it was not like I'd seen him and had him part of my family fabric for a while. So I was sad, but it wasn't grief, So I feel fortunate in that respect because the closest thing I can get is that I've put pets down, and that's a real thing, but it's not it's not a human loss.
Yeah.
What about you?
My granddad died on Sunday.
Really? Holy shit!
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My mum's dead. He's a bit of a prick. My mum's good because my mum had he was abusive. Like he was proper awful. So mum had a really interesting time processing it. Like she had always said, if he died, I wouldn't.
So this is 1 week ago.
Yeah. She said, I don't think I'll cry. She's, because he's been on his deathbed for a while. It's like he literally was ordered by the doctor to keep drinking a bottle of whiskey a day. It was like if his dependency was, that's what he said.
A bottle of whiskey a day.
He can put him back. He can put him back. Wow. And a bucket of KFC every day. Good
At that
guy.
point, I mean, what difference is it going to make? Yeah.
He died cycling on his way home from work. Yeah, so she was upset by it, but it was interesting to hear because, I had a few phone calls with her for like a couple of hours, just like I was very curious about how she was processing her dad's death, who she, kind of hated. And she's like, I'm mourning the father he wasn't more, which has kind of surprised her. It's not like who he was. And like, there's this thing inside of you, like that they're your parent. They're the person, even if it goes sour, they're the person that in the formative years, helped you survive. And I think there's some like a primal attachment that must just happen there. Anyway, a little bit off topic there. I don't think I've felt grief is usually associated with death, I guess. And I don't think I can say that I have felt grief. I think when my first relationship ended with Eleanor, I think I felt a hint of that. I felt like grief. It was a bunch of things, but I think that's what comes to mind. But I am also lucky to not have had like a close death, but I am terrified of it because it will come. Yeah. Unless I go first, which would be the best case scenario.
No, it's not the best case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we are lucky in that respect. And it does feel like there are the number of people around me at the moment whose parents are dealing with cancer or who have lost people. Again, it just makes me very grateful that so far so good, because it seems increasingly that it's kicking in for our generation. We're at the age where people start losing people.
Yeah, I don't think I handle grief well if I properly feel it. I'm not really... And that's the thing, right? My cousin died early on, so I got exposed to grief, but it wasn't mine. It was because I couldn't process it. It was exposure to that stuff. And I think that's...
Seeing others, right?
I think exposure to it, at least a little bit, having someone die is probably a helpful thing later in life. But this is the thing that scares me. If you don't properly experience something like grief, and then you get to like 50 and then you get a whopper of a grief.
Yeah.
It's like, I have no training for this. I have no scaffolding to deal with this. That's scary to me.
This is a weird leap, but this is one of the reasons that I think it's really important to have pets as a kid.
Yeah, totally.
I genuinely think that the value you get is not just companionship, it's not just responsibility, but it is also about dealing with the emotions of saying goodbye to someone that you love, because otherwise I think you risk going 50 years and suddenly it hits, right? You've never had even a glancing taste of it.
And the pets is a good one because the timeline is kind of like fast tracked. You get a dog, it's like you got 12 years, Goose is going to die in 12 years.
Probably a little bit longer for a smaller dog, but it's not that much longer.
Not if she keeps picking fights with
with
tradies.
It's funny the exposures that you have to the grief side of things. So I still to this day remember that I'm pretty sure the first time I saw my dad cry was when my granddad died, when my mum's dad died. Yeah. My dad gave a eulogy at my granddad's funeral. So for his wife's dad, his father-in-law, and he was crying when he gave the eulogy, and I still remember that. That must have been 25 years ago.
Wow,
probably, and that it's like etched into my brain because I think that was one of the first times I was like, oh, he's crying. Like I'm a kid and I cry, but Dad's crying, and that's crazy,
scary. It rocks your world.
Yeah.
At that age.
And the other thing that just recently, so end of last year, Casey had an old husky called Ace that lived with his parents. And Ace had got to 15 and a half. Big years for a dog. Lovely, gentle old husky. Lived long enough to see Goose, so they'd actually met. But then very quickly, at the end of last year, he he had it. And I got a call one day from his parents saying that he had taken sick, and in fact, it must have been from KC who found out. And I happened to be in the area, so I just popped in because they were going to take him to the hospital that afternoon at 3 p.m. and KC was at work, and so I thought I'll just pop in and I'll see him and I'll say goodbye. And then when we got there, it was very clear that the dog was not doing well and not going to make it till then. And so they actually pulled up the appointment. They said, we're going to take him to the vet now.
Yeah.
And I was there, and I hadn't intended to go along with it, but it was Casey's parents and me. And we went and we put Ace down. And that's never much fun. And it wasn't even my dog. But we were all in there, as they were putting the... as they were putting him down. And that's a very sweet thing to have witnessed. And I genuinely think that after that point, that my relationship with Casey's parents had changed. And it had we had become closer as a result of that because we were there in those moments.
You're getting me too, dude. What the fuck is going on?
Fucking dogs, man.
Jesus.
Fucking dogs. Yeah.
Fuck. Look at us. Just two grown men crying on a phone call and recording it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. God.
Oh, that's really nice. The 2 hot points for crying. Very. All right.
We're at -1.
It's crazy that dogs know. You know, when every dog that I put down 2. And they just that sixth sense just always freaks me out. That they're just like even both of my dogs always liked going in the car, liked going anywhere, would get excited, and then that one time we were going to kill them, they were like, "You're doing something." It's freaky.
Well, I mean, hopefully they were ready. I mean, the crazy thing about Ace was that Casey's dad had been away for a month. And it genuinely felt like he was waiting until he saw Dad again, and then when Dad got back, I know. It's sorry. We're gonna have to put content warnings at the top of this one. But yeah, they. I agree. I think they do hold on.
So is there more to this article?
Yeah, I might just loop back just to this a little bit. So if you remember the framing of this was that potentially a hypothesis is that the brain becomes addicted to the feelings or the chemicals that it gets by thinking about someone you loved in a way that then becomes problematic over time. And this drug, naltrexone, is meant to basically numb the pleasure that one feels from the substance. So there's grief experts who vehemently disagree with that framing of addiction. So a researcher of grief at Arizona State University, Kara Thielman, isn't convinced by the drug. Quote, "There's absolutely no reason to think that naltrexone will only affect the person's relationship to the person who died. One of the side effects of the drug is losing the capacity to socially bond with others by blocking out endogenous opioids, which are neurotransmitters that impact emotion. It can disrupt social networks," she says, "by making users less able to feel intimacy, and I think that's a bad idea when someone's grieving and they really need the support of their communities." So there is a trial of the effectiveness on this as a treatment for prolonged grief disorder that was scheduled to be completed in July. But interesting to think of one of those consequences being an antisocial end result, because I think all of us agree sort of intuitively that when you are feeling that emotion, the last thing you want to do is pull away from people, right?
Yeah. I understand the instinct, though. That's what I would do for sure if I was in grief.
Pull away?
Yeah. I mean,
you understand.
Yeah. Is grief always about another person or a being? Like, can you grieve something else that's not like about a person? If you lost your job, would that be grief, or is it just about a person?
Well, I think you probably could. I think it depends on the person.
It does feel like it is about love or the loss of love. Like love is very tied into grief.
Yeah. I mean, that is the flip side of it, right? Like that's what you're feeling there is love for something that's no longer
There,
accessible, right?
you could, you could theoretically, I think, grieve like a, say you always wanted to be a musician, and you never tried to do it. You never picked up. You never took lessons. I don't know. I could imagine you could grieve like a life that you didn't live, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's connected to what your mum was feeling, right? Like you can grieve
Sure.
not the person, but the loss of potential, right? Like the
Yeah.
idea that you could have had a relationship that worked better for you,
Yeah.
even if the person itself wasn't who you wanted.
That in itself is an interesting psychological thing. Like being sad about something that didn't happen is, yeah, I don't know, I find that a bit interesting.
Yeah,
Like, not in a
and
bad
I'm not
way,
Sure,
just-
I'm not sure that people would equivocate those either. Not
Yeah.
equate those either necessarily, implying that grief for loss of a job or grief for a potential that was not realized is going to be the same as grief for a person who died.
Yeah.
Here's a sort of more philosophical question for you. So, according to some research, our tendency to diagnose and pathologize is embedded in a happiness culture that has high standards. When grief impairs our ability to be productive in society, it is perceived as an illness. For both Wada and Tillman, these scientists, when we progressively funnel human experiences into the language of disorders and treatment, we lose our capacity for complexity and seeing the bigger picture. It shifts our focus to what's wrong with the individual instead of what this person experienced, she says. What has led them to where they are now in their own life? How has their culture impacted them or their social support?
Yeah.
The lack of considering context and individual circumstance is a problem that applies to how we view mental health disorders in general.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that as a broader concept of labeling or pathologizing or trying to diagnose things? Like when it comes to something like, oh, they were sad about the loss of their wife for more than a year, they've got a disorder. Do you think that's a problematic inclination, or are we, right to try and look at diagnoses and diseases through that lens?
Well, I mean, I think if it's prolonged and if someone's looking like they can't get out of it, then I think that a diagnosis there would be useful. But because it fluctuates so much, compared to, like, from person to person, it would be very hard to like even work out how long is an appropriate amount of time for someone to grieve.
Yeah.
You could grieve for 10 years and you could theoretically not have a disorder.
Yeah. So you've actually hit on something here that they already say in this article. So they say, when it comes to actually diagnosing the disorder, it's hard for doctors to draw the line between normal grief and prolonged grief, at least beyond measures of time, especially given the cyclical nature of it. Prolonged grief disorder overlooks differences in the type of loss, whether it was violent or non-violent, expected or not expected. Was it a grandparent or was it your child? These are real differences, and we know from the research that there are differences in how intensely people grieve, how long they grieve, and what that experience looks like. The intense grief a parent might feel after losing their child in a traumatic way, for instance, might tick the boxes of prolonged grief disorder, but Thielemann argues that their grief is natural and shouldn't be considered a disorder.
Yeah.
The flip side from the people who are trying to define this as a disease, Prigerson's research suggests that the same parent could benefit from a diagnosis to legitimize and then treat their inability to handle the grief. And the paradox is perhaps that both stances are in their own way right. Some people don't want to lose their grief, others would do anything to ease it. So
Yeah. My auntie Leslie, who lost my cousin Patrick when he was 9. I've spoken to her a lot about this, and she says, "Oh, I'll have this grief forever." She's functional though, and I think maybe that's the other thing. Like, she's very functional, and she can see joy in life again.
yeah,
But I don't think she would want to lose the grief because it'd feel like, it would feel wrong to her, I think she'd say, and it would feel like losing a part of him. Like the grief is him, to her in a way.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
If you stop feeling it, part of you would have to wonder whether that means like you've
Yeah.
moved on or forgotten or invalidated or
Yeah.
it's tricky.
Yeah.
But you know that as well, those people would not want you to just live in that for 30 years.
What I said at the start about not wanting to avoid hard emotions like this. I think it is important for us as like it's so ingrained in our evolution and in our DNA and our makeup and our behavior as human beings and animals, even like elephants fucking grieve.
Yeah.
And I would be very wary of like losing. That's what it's kind of one of the big ones. It's not one of the nice ones, but it's one of the big ones. If you have a headache, you could take a Panadol and clear up your headache. That's one thing, but my instinct with this grief pill thing, even if it is a disorder, or it's debilitating someone, they're not functional. My instinct would be to say like this is we don't as humans want to lose grief as a concept or as an emotion.
Mm. And yeah, as I think about it, there's someone, an acquaintance I know, who did suffer the loss of a child. This was one of my mum's friends.
Yeah.
And I don't think ever really got over it in a way that I do wonder if it had sort of derailed their life effectively.
Right.
And I do look at those people and you can't blame them for it because why would it not break everything in your life, you know? But at the same time, I can see an argument that like, this is 20 years on and unlike your Leslie, it feels like perhaps they don't see the joy or see the happiness or that, exists in the world still. So maybe there is an argument to like what has been, is there a way to help someone to make the most of what they still have, without undermining the reality and the love that they feel for what has lost.
Yeah. Jesus, this is a cheery episode. This is what you get when you don't do our fucking quiz, everybody.
This is what you get.
Okay? Next week we're talking all about abortion, and you can't do anything about it.
I did a round about insects.
And you know what, Nick? It was one of the greatest rounds of all time.
Thank you.
Okay.
There was one about praying mantises.
Well,
and
you've given it away.
I've given it away. Well, they fucking didn't care, did they, Michael? They fucking didn't care.
Fuck them.
Anyway, you please tell something fun.
Well, this is something that's interesting, a new development that's happened to me.
Hey.
What you're saying about the grief pill coming out of diminishing, people who drink or alcoholics, diminishing the pleasure that they get from it. So something interesting has happened to me recently, and I haven't taken any pills, but I'm a big coffee guy. I've got a lot of apparatus. I've like spent money getting a cold brew. I take pleasure in finding the beans and mixing around with the thing.
Amen. Sister.
And the last 2 weeks, I have no desire to drink coffee. I don't know what's happened. And I was drinking, almost 2 liters a day. And
2 liters a day.
A lot because it's basically on tap.
Sure.
And
how many shots is that? Like 6 shots, 8 shots?
I have no idea. It's probably like if you get a cold brew from your cafe, it's probably like 4 of those.
Okay. Yeah,
but like over the course of the day. Maybe. Anyway, yeah. I loved it. I still think I love it, but like my body doesn't want it. It's not like I'm disgusted by it. I So I'm almost trying to force myself to drink coffee just to get back into it. I don't know. I was like, I need this.
I want to be able to
vice.
maintain this
I
2
need
liters
a vice.
habit.
But yeah, it's like nothing has
So
changed.
nothing has changed. What you haven't changed medication, you haven't
Nothing
changed
has
diet, you
changed.
haven't changed exercise. You just suddenly woke up one day and stopped drinking 2 liters a day.
Yeah.
How
and
are you
like
not in like
zero?
shakes and withdrawals?
I don't know. And that's the other thing is it could be tied to my ADHD medication. This is my leading theory,
Yeah.
because around the same time I felt like I didn't want to take my medication. Like I didn't. I've been very.
So you say you feel like you didn't want to, but you still have been, or you stopped taking it when you stopped taking coffee?
Well, I'm kind of like, I'm not, you don't need to take, I'm on Vyvanse, and so you don't need to take it all the time. Like, it's not like you're going to get withdrawals or whatever. And a lot of people don't take their ADHD meds on the weekend, for example. But yeah, maybe around the same time I had like, I was like, I don't want to take
So you have
those.
stopped.
Well, no, I mean, I had one today.
Okay.
I had it today.
I'm not, I don't take them or don't take them. I'm just saying that you're like, I haven't changed anything. I haven't done anything. There's absolutely no changes I've made, except I did stop taking the medication that I've been taking.
Yeah, but like they're both stimulants, I guess. And I did stop taking them at the same time, or weaning off. So just an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, I'll be curious to see whether you wake up one day and you're suddenly like, what the fuck? I need something. But there is, I think ADHD and caffeine is literally ineffective. Like KC will have a coffee at like 11 p.m. at night and just go to bed. Whereas I have a coffee at like 3:30 in the afternoon, and I will spend the first hour in bed trying to get to sleep at like 1 a.m. And I would have to imagine that even if you are drinking those 2 liters, that it's functionally like you're drinking decaf, because your brain just doesn't like even register.
I think it is.
So
I think it is.
That the fact that
my
you
dad
could
drinks
stop-
coffee right up until 3 a.m. On
Yeah,
a
well, he's
Thursday
got
night,
ADHD as well.
I reckon he does.
But well, of course he does. You have it from somewhere. But the fact that you are not like in sweats, as in like shaking, feverish, like withdrawals from going from 2 liters of coffee a day to no liters of coffee a day, suggests that your body is not like processing caffeine in the same way as everyone else's.
I've honestly said it before. Like, people will say, "Oh, you don't talk to me until I've had my first cup of coffee in the morning." Like, I've never felt like woken up by coffee. I've never, like, coffee doesn't do anything. I like the taste, I like the ritual, but I've never felt like woken up by coffee. It's never done anything.
That's sad for me in a way.
I need meth. I need meth. That I feel. Or a nice big slug of cocaine. I will feel that. Coffee.
Or like an EpiPen, like just pure adrenaline.
Or an argument.
I can see now why you get into fights with me.
Honestly, I reckon it might be
the only thing that makes me feel alive.
It is kind of that fucking hell. It's spicy food. Fuck.
Oh gosh.
I love it when you unravel my diagnosis in front of me.
There you go. I've got the DSM in front of me.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I hope you have enjoyed, or at least found cathartic, this episode of the Deep Thought Experience. If you'd like to find more episodes, just scroll down that pod feed, and you can click on something else, maybe something a little bit lighter. Maybe you go back to the last episode and you play along with a quiz night. No one's telling you what to do, but you could do that. You can also get in contact with us, deepthought@gmail.com, and send us your opinions about parking morality. You can leave comments on the Spotify, and as we've previously established, if you leave a comment, you might be read out as the comment of the week. Michael, do we have any comments this week?
No.
Well, keep it up, guys, and you can rate us there on Spotify, 5 stars. Of course, rate us on Apple Podcasts. Find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, and find someone you like and tell them you love them.
So it's mandarin season.
Hey!
Do you get mandarins over there?
Oh, do we?
Love mandarin season. Love mandarins. Do you like a mandarin?
I do like a mandarin. Citrus is one of my safety fruits. They're not fructosey, so I can have as much as I want.
-1 hot points for that. Do you like a seedless mandarin? You don't mind a pip? Where do
I
you
don't
go?
mind a pip, but if I get a seedless, I'm going to be enjoying myself a little bit more.
I agree. There's a lot of these mandarin purists out there that they think, oh, you're going to get as much flavor. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Anyway, eating a lovely mandarin the other day, and I was just staring at it, and I was like, this is an amazing piece of fruit. And I was like, it's so nice of it to just like, I'm just going to go ahead and divide and slice myself up for you. I was like, it's amazing to me. And I was like, we must have engineered this. So I went on a Mandarin deep dive, and boy, do they have an interesting history. So this is a Mikey's Facts.
I better play the jingle.
Michael's Facts, Michael's Facts, Facts Machine, oh, here's a bonus fact. If you've got knowledge, we'll look it up, 'cause Michael's Facts are here to stay, yeah. Alright, so mandarins have a very interesting history, okay? So studies believe, this is the origin of Mandarin, studies believe that Mandarin origins have existed in China and other parts of East and Southeast Asia for more than 1 million years, and were domesticated twice around the foothills of China's Nanling mountain range, where wild mandarins can still be found today. We may have cultivated mandarins 80,000 years ago, but the earliest hard evidence dates back about 4,000 years. There's a recording of mandarins being gifted to Emperor Yu the Great around 2200 BC. I'm kind of just skipping around here. Why are they called mandarins? This is interesting. The word dates back to the 1580s and may have been inspired by orange robes worn by Chinese court officials, or the Portuguese word mandarim with an M. China-Portugal relations date all the way back to the 1500s during the Ming Dynasty. So the leading theory on why it's called Mandarin is because it might also be borrowed from the Swedish Mandarin Apelsin, or the German Apfelsen, and so it's kind of a hybrid name. So even though it's in, they've used Mandarin, but the in part is the hybrid of Apelsin. Which means Chinese apple.
Oh.
So that's about all you need to know. But how about this? And this just blew my freaking tits, Nick. Mandarins. I've got a picture. I'll send it to you after the pod. Mandarins are older than oranges.
Mandarins are older than oranges?
Yeah. There was like this. There was a citron.
Do oranges come from? Oh yeah, that's right.
Citron was lemon and lime. We engineered those.
Yeah, we made them separate. Yeah.
But mandarins existed or evolved at the same time as citron, and we didn't touch them. Basically, I mean, we've touched them now, but they're already pre-sliced from God. Beautiful.
God.
Isn't
Well,
that lovely?
mandarins. The thing I was thinking about is that I have. A lot of people out there probably have an orange juice in the morning. Michael, are you an orange juice guy?
No.
Well, a lot of people out there are probably orange juice guys. What I like to drink is a mandarin mango pineapple juice, which is just a little bit different, still fresh, still tangy, but you can taste the mandarin, and I would say it's a more sophisticated palate.
100%.
And I would like to encourage people who purely drinking an OJ, particularly those who don't want pulp, like, come on, grow up, to just push the boundaries a little bit and get out there into the weird and wild world of other juices.
Yeah. I've never liked orange juice. I've never been a juice guy, to be honest.
What about a mango? What about an apple blackcurrant?
Apple blackcurrant. That's what I would go towards. I like a purple.
What about
apple juice?
A sparkling apple black?
Yeah,
like
or a sparkling apple white. I don't care.
A little bit of a fizz,
I love a fizz.
Do you like a stone fruit? Like a peacherine?
You know what? I vehemently do not like a peacherines.
What about
nectarine?
Or you don't like a nectarine?
I don't like stone fruit. I really don't. I like plums.
Peaches?
How about that? I hate peaches. Peaches give me a rash.
Well, maybe that's the reason you don't like them, is because your body isn't strong enough to enjoy them.
Well, my groin specifically, but yeah.
Your groin gets itchy when you have a peach.
Yeah. Well, when I
You
rub
might
the
be doing
peach
it
on my
wrong.
groin, when I try to fuck a peach. Never plays ball.
Playing
And the
balls.
stone is annoying as well because it gets in the way.
Call me by your name. So how about a rec engine, Mikey?
I would love nothing more than to finish with a wreck engine.
Play some Jing. I mean,
That's
grab
not.
the
That's
keys.
not you, fucking idiot. You've lost it.
It's fine.
How dare you?
It's fine. It's fine.
We're gonna get so many emails now. That'd be nice.
Welcome to Deep Thought's recommendation engine.
All right, Mikey, let me kick us off with a quick rec. Do you know the internet personality Hank Green? He's a bit of a science guy. He does videos once or twice a week with his brother, John Green, who wrote a book. Hank
see if I
Green,
know
you
his
might
face.
recognize him.
Vaguely, yeah.
So he has a stand-up special on Dropout called Pissing Out Cancer, which I just watched the other night. Pissing Out Cancer by Hank Green. He is not a traditional stand-up, but he is one of those people that has the sort of performative confidence to be on stage and talk about things very confidently. He's very exuberant, and he got Hodgkin's lymphoma a couple of years ago. And this is his Tig Notaro special about getting cancer and talking through the process of chemotherapy and all that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting and really funny, and I enjoyed it.
Was it a comedy special, did you say?
Yeah, it's like an hour-long presentation, but he's a science brain guy, so a lot of his stuff is about, it's from like a medical perspective and from like a science perspective and a little bit philosophy about, meaning of life and all that kind of thing. And I just really enjoyed it. He's got a unique voice. It was funny. I did laugh out loud. It was relatable, and it was also really insightful about like the real shit that people go through when they're dealing with cancer. And I just thought it was excellent.
Even when we're recommending comedy, it's about cancer.
It's about cancer. And that's why I was
Can't
like,
help
I need to do a
ourselves.
rec this episode because this is the one to do it in.
Yeah. My rec this week has got nothing to do with cancer or comedy. It's just a great new show on I think it's on Max actually. It's a reality show called The Baldwins, and it follows the luxurious but oftentimes tense lives of the Baldwin, Alec Baldwin, and his wife, fucking Tiffany or something. Do you know what her name is? She's got a really
Tiffany
annoying
his
name.
daughter? It could be Tiffany. There is a Tiffany Baldwin, I'm pretty sure.
Sorry, this is important, so I will look this up. Hilaria, which is hilarious.
Hilaria.
Hilaria Baldwin,
Oh, wow.
who you might know from TMZ videos where she's yelling at reporters, trying to get a picture of her after the Rust murder happened, quite frankly.
Alleged.
Anyway, it's an interesting show because it is trashy in a sense, but it's clear that this is a complete PR campaign.
Yeah, I was going to say, is your fascination not actually the content, but the meta level of this is someone trying to massage their image?
Well, first of all, I actually really am a huge fan of Alec Baldwin. I think he is so funny. Like his Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee is the best one. Like I just love his vibe. I love his.
I mean, he was great on 30 Rock.
Great on 30 Rock, and he's really funny in this, but he clearly does not want to do this show. And his wife really does. And it's interesting because they go through like it's kind of filmed around the Rust trial when he was actually, so you get a little bit of a glimpse behind that. And it's interesting from that perspective, but it's clearly that their PR, their publicist has gone, this is a great opportunity because we're just normalizing you back, so you're not just like the guy that killed the woman on set. Which, by the way, Rust is now out as a movie.
They released it.
It's very weird. Also, there's a great documentary on Disney Plus, I think, about the Rust. It gets a bit like inspirational at the end, which sucks, but it's kind of interesting. The whole thing is quite interesting. But anyway, I've been loving the Baldwins. It's a hoot. They're very privileged, and but they don't know it. They don't know it.
Do you think they really don't know it?
They act like they do, but like it's not authentic at all.
They
but
can't. Yeah.
Hilaria does. Hilaria tries to act like she makes everything about her. She made the whole like Rust. Like Alec Baldwin is like, there's shots of him in the background, like with his head in his hands crying. And she's just like, this has been really hard for me. You know? But anyway, it's something for everyone. Bit of moxie from old AB. There's just some narcissism from Hilaria. And they've also got like 11 kids. They live in
11?
Something like that. Yeah.
My God.
So it's a bit crazy.
Did you see the clip
and
of
they live in the
Stephen
Hamptons.
Baldwin?
And they live in the Hamptons. Oh, I did. Yes, on John
doing
Oliver.
his like solo, yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna watch that in full. Like that, I could not believe that. Those Baldwin brothers, because he does a podcast with Alec Baldwin and his mum now. Pretty good.
Oh gosh,
big fan of the Baldwins.
Apparently, I didn't realize you had such an obsession.
I actually really do, and I am fascinated by them because Alec Baldwin clearly so talented, and the other guys are just like
somewhere else.
Drop kicks. Stephen Baldwin is as well. Sorry, this wreck has gone on for way too long, hasn't it?
No, we're padding time. This is good.
Yeah, Stephen Baldwin is Justin Bieber's father-in-law, which makes it even weirder. I don't know. It's just a whole... I want to be a Baldwin.
I don't know why my brain thought of this. I guess having lots of weird siblings. Isn't it weird that Tom Hanks has a son called Chet Hanks? Do you know about Chet Hanks?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of Chet Hanks as well.
I feel like
I
feel like that you. I think I knew in my soul innately that you loved Chet Hanks.
I'm just fascinating by these people.
Yes.
Like he's obviously as well. He's kind of like a Stephen Baldwin type where he's
like celebrity
kind of
adjacent.
needing to live up to his dad. Although his other son is quite accomplished.
Colin Hanks is terrific.
Colin Hanks. He's got a career. But Chet is just like, well, I'm just going to do a Jamaican accent on a red carpet. I think that'll be my thing.
Yeah.
And Daniel Day-Lewis's son is like a rapper and like he's making rap songs on YouTube about how much his dad sucks. Like, I'm big on celebrity families.
I was going to say, yeah, you're. I give it 6 months before you're watching the Kardashians.
I give it 2. Maybe to cut off my mic because I got a lot more to say. Like,
okay, muting you now. One last react before we go. I watched a movie last night called Predator: Killer of Killers. There was an excellent Predator spin-off movie a few years ago called Prey, which was a Native American taking on the Predator in like historic times in the 1600s by a director called Dan Trachtenberg, who did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was really good. That was the one with Goodman.
I like that one.
And this is an animated film basically spanning 3 time periods and putting a Predator against a Norse Viking woman in like 800, a samurai in the 1600s, and well, almost like a ninja, and a World War II American fighter pilot. And it's just really well made, great action, great storytelling, really compelling, beautiful art style. And I am looking forward to anything that this guy does, Dan Trachtenberg. And he's got another real live action Predator movie coming out in cinemas later this year. I just love that this guy is reinvigorated this franchise and has a really unique style and is kicking ass, and it's great.
That sounds so boring.
Okay, well, for some people, it is great.
Predator Killer. Cool. Do you want to end on a laugh, or
Do you
wanna
not
cry
have any more
again?
Rex?
Do you want to cry? No, I don't. I just had the Baldwins written 3 times. By the way, I know your instinct's going to be to call this episode "Good Grief."
It's
But
not.
we've
We've already had an episode called it.
Okay.
It's going to be called Bad Grief.
Nice. Bad grief. No such thing.
That's very philosophical.
Yeah, well, it was.